Today we will be starting with company accounts. The first chapter of company accounts is issue of shares. Now what is a share? Share means a part of the capital. For example, if a company is having a capital of rupees 10 lakh and it divides that 10 lakh rupees capital into 1 lakh parts, each part will be a share of rupees 10 each. So shares are of two types, equity shares and preference shares. Preference shares are shares on which a fixed rate of dividend is paid by the company. And that rate of dividend is mentioned when the shares are issued to the public. And after a certain period of time, after a certain number of years that is, the money that is taken by the company from the preference shareholders, that is refunded back to them. Returned, we call it redemption. Whereas equity shares are the permanent capital of a company, joint stock company. They also have a face value or nominal value. But the amount is not returned back to the shareholders during the lifetime of the company. As long as the company survives or as long as the company does business, the equity shareholders will not get back their money, and therefore they are the actual owners of the company. They are the permanent, their money that they give to the company, that constitutes the permanent capital of the company. Whereas preference shareholders, they get a fixed rate of dividend. But equity shareholders, their dividend depends on the profits that is available after paying dividend to preference shareholders. So, the rate of dividend on equity shares varies. If the profits are more, then they get a higher rate of dividend. And if the profits are lower, then they get a lower rate of dividend. And sometimes they may not get any dividend at all. When the company does not earn any profits, they don't get a dividend. That means the equity shareholders are the real risk takers. So in times of good profits, they get better dividends, and in times when the company is not doing well, they do not get good your dividends. So they are the risk takers, actual risk takers. But the preference shareholders, they get the fixed rate of dividend whether the company earns profit or not. Now, the capital is divided into shares of particular units of a particular value. That value is known as the face value or the par value of the share. The share capital, as you know, that it is like, for example, authorized capital. Authorized capital is the maximum capital which the company can raise during its lifetime. And it is mentioned in the Memorandum of Association, that is the capital clause of the Memorandum of Association. That is the maximum capital which the company can raise during its lifetime. Out of that authorized capital, whatever amount of capital is issued by the company is termed as issued capital. For example, let us say a company is having an authorized capital of rupees 10 lakh divided into 1 lakh shares of rupees 10 each. Out of that, it issues 50,000 shares of rupees 10 each. That means 5 lakh will be the issued capital. Now why does it issue only 50,000 shares? Because that is the amount of capital that they require just now. So they will not issue more capital, because more capital will lead to over-capitalization and it will lead to idle funds, and thereby also the company has to pay more dividend to more shareholders, which is also not good. So that is issued capital. Now out of that issued capital, how many shares have been subscribed for by the public? That constitutes your subscribed capital. Now subscribed capital is again of two types. One is subscribed and fully paid up, and the other is subscribed and not fully paid up. Subscribed and fully paid up means that capital on which the total money on the shares have been received. That means the value of the shares on which the total face value has been received. Like for example, say, like in our example we took that 50,000 shares of rupees 10 is issued by the company. Out of that, let us say subscribed capital is 45,000 shares of rupees 10 each. That means people have applied for 45,000 shares of rupees 10 each. And out of which, on 40,000 shares, the company has got total 10 rupees. So subscribed capital will be 40,000 into 10, 4 lakh. And on the rest 5,000 shares, they have got only 8 rupees per share. They have not got rupees 10 per share. So that 5,000 into 8, that will be your subscribed and not fully paid up capital. Now be very clear about it. Subscribed and fully paid up means the shares on which the total money has been received, and subscribed and not fully paid up means shares on which the total money has not been received. For example, if it is a share of rupees 10, the company has got rupees 9, then that will come as subscribed and not fully paid up. Let's say the share is of rupees 10, but the company has got rupees 8, then that will be subscribed and not fully paid up. But if the company has got total 10 rupees, then that will come under subscribed and fully paid up. Okay? Now we will look at the journal entries which are passed by the company when they issue shares. First of all, when a company issues shares, they advertise in your media that we are issuing shares, so many shares we are issuing of this particular face value. Face value is also known as nominal value or par value. And we will be issuing the shares through these particular banks. So they designate certain banks where you have to go and you have to collect the form and deposit a certain amount of the face value of the share. That amount is known as the application money. For example, say a share is of rupees 10 and the company decides to take 3 rupees as application money. That means if you want to buy 1 share, you will pay 3 rupees. If you want to buy 10 shares, you will pay 30 rupees. You will fill up the application and you will deposit that in that bank, and the bank will forward that money to the company. So when the company gets the application money from the people who are applying for the shares, the journal entry will be bank account debit with the actual amount received by the company to share application account. Total amount received by the company from the people who have applied for the shares on account of application. Then the board of directors, they pass a resolution and they transfer this application money to share capital. So the next entry will be share application account debit to share capital. Whatever money is transferred to share capital, that will be transferred or credited to share capital account. And if some money is refunded back, like for example, some people are not allotted any shares, so their application money is returned back to them, then it will be to bank, the amount that is refunded back to them. Okay? So in this case, I would like to say that sometimes the company may have over subscription or the company may have under subscription. Over subscription is a situation where the number of shares subscribed for by the public is more than the number of shares issued by the company. Okay. Like for example, if the company is issuing 50,000 shares, people are applying for 60,000 shares, then that is a case of over subscription. In that case, 10,000 people who have applied for 10,000 extra shares, their application money will be refunded back by the company. The company cannot allot 60,000 shares. The company can allot only 50,000 shares for which it has asked for your subscription. So a company cannot allot more than 50,000 shares in this example which we have taken. So that extra money which they get, that will be refunded back to the people who have applied for the shares. So that will be to bank. Then again the board of directors will sit and they will pass the resolution to ask for the allotment money. Now let us say in this case the allotment money decided by the company is rupees 3. So then the entry that will be passed in the books of the company will be share allotment account debit with the actual amount receivable by the company. So the number of shares allotted by the company into the subscription allotment money per share. Like say 50,000 shares the company has allotted, and 3 rupees is the allotment money. So 50,000 into 3. So share allotment account debit to share capital. That means we are straight away transferring the share allotment money to share capital the moment the board of directors pass the resolution asking for the allotment money. Then the company will send letters to the shareholders asking for the allotment money. And when the shareholders pay the money, then the entry will be bank account debit with the actual amount received by the company to share allotment account. Now in this case, we have to also understand one more thing. Sometimes it so happens that some shareholders may not pay. In that case, your bank will be less than the share allotment account debit amount. So in that case, bank account will be debited with the actual amount received. Calls in arrears account will be debited with the money not received. Here I have not written the calls in arrears account debit, but if total money of allotment is not received, then calls in arrears account will be debited with the money not received to share allotment account. Then again the board of directors will sit and ask for the first call money. Let us say in our example, let us say the first call money is rupees 2. So the board of directors will pass the resolution asking for the first call money. So the entry then that will be passed is share first call account debit amount actually receivable by the company. That means number of shares allotted by the company into first call amount per share. Like in our example, your number of shares allotted into 2 rupees to share capital. Again we are transferring the first call amount to the share capital. Then again letters will be sent to the shareholders asking for the first call money, and when they pay, then the entry will be bank account debit to share first call, again with the actual amount received. Again in this case also, if some shareholders do not pay, then bank account debit with the actual amount received. Calls in arrears account will be debited with the money not received to share first call account. Then again the board of directors will ask for the second call money. So they will sit together, they will pass the resolution asking for the second call money. Let us say in our example, second call is rupees 2. That means that completes 10 rupees. So this will be our final call also. So you can write second call or you can write final call also, because total 10 rupees is covered. So share second call account debit with the number of shares allotted and into second call money per share 2 rupees to share capital. So again here we are passing the transfer of the second call money to the capital directly. And then when the shareholders pay, bank account debit to share second call. Here again, if some people do not pay, then that will be debited to calls in arrears account. Okay, so these are the journal entries for the which are passed in the books of the company on the issue of shares. But the journal entries may change a little bit. For example, shares may be issued at a premium also. Like here I assume that a 10 rupees share is issued at 10 rupees. But it may so happen that if it is a reputed company, a 10 rupees share may be issued at rupees 12. So in that case, the company is issuing the shares at a premium of 2 rupees. So that extra 2 rupees which the company gets, that will be credited to a securities premium reserve account. So the extra money will be credited to securities premium reserve account. So in that case, we will pass a little bit different type of entry when the premium money is received. So wherever it is received, we will or wherever it is rather receivable, we will pass the entry crediting securities premium reserve account. And sometimes, as I told you, that calls in arrears will be there. If everybody doesn't pay, then calls in arrears account will be debited with the money not received. So these changes will be there. But as such, this is the skeleton of all the journal entries which are passed in the books of the company on the issue of shares. Now we have to remember certain things on the issue of shares. For example, that minimum time gap between two calls, that will be 1 month. So the first money that a shareholders pays with application, that will be application money. when a shareholder is when a applicant is, rather he will be called as applicant, and when the applicant is allotted a share, then the amount he has to pay is known as allotment money. Then afterwards, when he pays the next year installment, that will be known as the first call money. Then again, when he pays the next installment, that will be known as first call. Again, if there is another installment, that will be known as second call, and so on. The last call is generally called the final call. So the minimum time gap between two calls or two installments will be 1 month. And also one more thing, that minimum 14 days time must be given to the shareholders to pay the money. For example, just now we said that share allotment account debit to share capital, that entry we are passing when the board of directors pass the resolution asking for the allotment money. After that, they will send letters to the shareholders. So they have to be given minimum time or 14 days to pay that allotment money. Okay, so these are the things that we have to keep in mind. And after allotment also, one more thing, after the allotment of shares is done, the entire amount of the shares must be taken within a period of 1 year. Okay, like for example, if the allotment is done on a particular date, from that date will take 1 year. Maximum within 1 year, the entire amount, the first call, second call and final call, whatever it may be, the entire amount of the shares must be taken. So these are the journal entries for the issue of shares. In the next video, we will start with the questions, and we will also discuss more about the share capital and its representation on the balance sheet of a joint stock company. The balance sheet of a joint stock company is very different from that of a partnership business or of a sole proprietorship business. That is why we have segregated the share capital into so many types. We have authorized capital, the maximum capital which the company can raise during its lifetime. Issued capital means the capital which is issued by the company, and that means people can apply for that much capital. Subscribed means actually the amount of capital which people have subscribed for, they have applied for. So subscribed can be of two types, subscribed and fully paid up, I told you, and subscribed and not fully paid up. Now here, subscribed and not fully paid up will be those shares on which the total amount of the shares has not been received. I emphasize on that. Please do not confuse in that. And subscribed and fully paid up means will be those shares on which the total amount of the share value has been received. So this segregation must be clear to everybody. So that these are the accounting entries passed in the books of the company when a company issues shares, and we will be passing them in the journal with proper narration and with proper format. Don't forget that.